Hello everybody, I'm Pastor Steve Green. Welcome to our first refresh message this week. Our subject is He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. Today is Wednesday, October 28th, and again, we are glad you're with us and thank you for joining us. Lately I've been hearing the sad story of a particular ministry that's been suffering a lot of internal conflict over an age-old issue. It's an issue that has caused no end of trouble in Christian history, and yet when it's understood, it's not difficult at all. And not only is it not difficult, but it's a tremendous advantage to us to be able to understand this particular issue. And the issue we're talking about is faith and works, or we could say faith and legalism. Now, we can simply express this by asking two questions. Number one, are we saved through faith or by works? And the Bible is clear, plain on this issue. We are not saved by works. We are saved or justified, two words that are used in a very similar fashion. We're saved or justified not by works, but by faith. So having established that, we can then go on and ask the second question. This faith by which we are saved or justified, how does this faith work? Does it work without works or without corresponding actions, we could say? Or does it work by corresponding actions or with works? And again, the answer is going to be very plain. It's faith that has works is going to be the kind of faith that produces results for us. So in other words, we're going to need to put corresponding actions to our faith. And so this is where the difficulty comes in. I think, first of all, it's simple. It's two simple questions with two simple answers. But because we are saved by faith, and it's the kind of faith that has works, that has a saving impact on us, then we can say, in that sense, we're saved by works. All right, I trust you're following closely. So on one hand, we're not saved by works, we're saved by faith, but because faith needs to have works, then we are in fact saved by works, if the works we're talking about are works of faith as opposed to works of the flesh. So that's then the bigger question that we're looking at is how do we transition, or to those of us, many of us that have already been transitioning out of works of flesh into works of faith, how do we continue to transition out of flesh and into faith? All right. I'll just give two scriptures that go along with what we've been talking about this morning. In Romans 4, verses 2 and 3, for if Abraham was justified by works, he has something to boast about, but not before God. For what does the scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. That's Genesis 15:6. Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. So it's quoting from Genesis 15:6 to demonstrate that it's by faith we're saved and not by works. But then in James, and this is where this is fun, James 2 verses 21 to 24, was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered Isaac his son on the altar? Again, using Abraham as an example, but to demonstrate the necessity of works. Do you see that faith was working together with his works, and by works faith was made perfect? So first of all, it has to be a work of faith, not a work of flesh. That's where we're saved by faith, not by works. But then now that we've established that we're talking about works of faith, then these works are going to obviously have action associated with them. And so it's continuing in James 2, and the scripture was fulfilled, which says Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. That's the same verse that was quoted in Romans from Genesis 15. And so different writers in the New Testament are using the same Old Testament verse to demonstrate, first of all, that we're saved by faith and not by works, and then also to demonstrate that our faith needs to have works. So I trust you're following us closely in all of this. When we talk about salvation, we're talking about not just our initial salvation, as you are aware, but also our ongoing salvation that occurs when we live by faith. So we're going to, in the next 2 days, we're going to continue to look at the question, how do we transition out of works of flesh into works of faith? Thank you for joining us.